We all learned in school that 70% of our body mass is water. But when you look at it from the molecular point of view, 99% of all of your molecules are water. We only have 1% of heavy molecules that are not water. We realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. H2O molecules, they move randomly. We found a way to bring harmony into that chaos. When you use the Analemma, they actually form a liquid crystalline structure. Through this unique process, water becomes empowered. Drinking this water connects you in a very tangible way.
And Mario, we are live. How are you, sir?
Doing very good. Lovely to be here, Robert. I'm honored and I'm really happy. I'm always super happy to tell the story about this because I really believe it's super important.
Well, let's dive into the backstory because I love the origin story. I mean, water obviously is super important, but I kind of want to know how all this came to be and where your interest for it really stemmed from. So give me the behind the curtain view, man.
So I was always very passionate about health and wellness. I always knew that our bodies were created, let's say, perfect, that there is this extraordinary innate process inside of our body, ability of our body to repair itself. And I was always very passionate about finding ways to help that natural process in powerful ways. So this led me, I opened a natural pharmaceutical company where I offered really extraordinary healing products, which really helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And it was a super gratifying process when you help somebody get back to their health is really an extraordinary thing. I really loved every second of it. I did it for a while, and then it was I felt that it was time to move on. I sold the entire business to Walgreens, and after a while, I was I wanted to throw myself into something which is truly for the highest good of all. I wanted something which helps both people, animals, plants, environment. It was a very tall order. And as universe would have it, I got acquainted to Dr. Eric Larker, who is the inventor of Analemma water. And I was, the whole project ticked all the boxes, and I brought all of my experience in clinical trials, so that we prove the extraordinary effect of this water on basically any biological system out there. And we actually did it. We did it short-term, mid-term, long-term. We did studies on soil. We did studies on plants. Basically, anything that this water touches really has profound effect. And we're going to go into all of this. So I'm super grateful to be a part of this, because when you witness such profound change, you just want to do it justice. So my whole thing is to send this message to as much people as possible, so they can see how their life can be improved in a very simple way.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this. As we were talking about before we started recording, one of my colleagues started structuring his water, and he was telling me about it because he came over to the house and he had that little stir stick, and he was just going to town on this glass of water. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? And I had no clue. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. So I'm excited to dive into it. And I feel like we all know that water obviously is important. It comprises, our bodies. But I feel like most people are probably in the state of, hey, water's water. But not all water is created equal. And you got people that are, purifying water now, trying not to drink what comes from the municipal city supply. But peel that curtain back, man. What is the differentiating factors in water, and why is not all water the same?
First of all, interesting question. We all learned in school that 70% of our body mass is water. I mean, that in and of itself is really extraordinary. 2/3 of your body is water. But when you look at it from the molecular point of view, by purely molecular count, 99% of all of your molecules are water. We only have 1% of heavy molecules that are not water. If you can imagine, we're more water than the ocean. Ocean is 97% water. This off the bat tells you there is something extraordinarily important about water. We're basically very clever H2O walking around, and we're not even aware of that. This water exists in a bit different state. You mentioned structured state. So it's a gel state. It's not regular water state. We realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they move randomly. They're crashing into each other because all of this is happening on an atomic level. Nobody's really aware of that. We found a way to bring harmony into that chaos. Colloquially speaking, when you use the Analemma, what happens is that those same chaotic H2O molecules, they start joining hands. They actually form a liquid crystalline structure. They form a liquid crystalline state. What happens is that the water starts to move in unison with itself. Through this unique process, water becomes empowered. Its true power on biological system is being unleashed. And we truly believe that this is the way universe or God, however, life wanted water to be in. Because if we actually tested it on humans, we tested it on animals, we tested it on plants, we tested it on soil, and the results were always phenomenal. So this has almost instant effect, midterm effect, a long-term effect. We're going to go into all of the details. This is how we were supposed to actually use water. We were kind of debating why water entered into this chaotic state. I don't know, it's kind of due to various environmental influences, EMFs or toxins. It's very hard to say anything. But we actually tried to find this coherent water, this real water in this particular state, in various places in the world, whether it exists in nature. And we had to go really, really remotely outside of any civilization, and there we actually found it. But interestingly, as soon as you take it out of the well, in a very short period of time, water molecules break and the water goes back to chaos.
We had a podcast a while back, and the guest was speaking to me about a study that was done. You probably recognize it and can elaborate on it. But basically, there was a scientist that took the 2 petri dishes of water, and he spoke positively to one and negatively to the other. And then they looked at it under a microscope, and the positive affirmation water was all structured more so than the negative water. What is the details behind that study?
Yeah, it's Dr. Masaru Emoto. It's a Japanese scientist. It's one of the pioneers in the which really kind of brought light to the importance of water. And actually, many people, I actually invite your listeners to do the same. It's a very simple experiment to do. What he actually did, did the same thing. He actually expressed the positive emotion, negative emotion to water, and then he crystallized the water and he photographed it under the microscope. But what I'm inviting people, and also Dr. Masaru Emoto did the same thing. The simple experiment that people can do themselves, they can just take rice and boil it. Okay, so the water enters into rice. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you actually take that same rice in 2 cups, and you approach 1 cup every day. And you express all of your beautiful emotions, gratitude, love, compassion, kindness. You really go express everything that is best in you towards that cup. And every single day, these cups need to be separated and go to the other one. So it's the same rice, just taken into 2 cups. And you express all the negative emotion to it. Just go to town. Really kind of express everything negative about it. And everyone can do that, and it's 100% repeatable. After a couple of days, maybe a week, the rice that had beautiful emotion expressed to it, you can smell this beautiful fermented smell of rice, and you can actually eat that rice if you can imagine. But the other one, you're going to see visual signs of decay, so it's going to rot in front of your eyes, and it's going to have foul smell. And the only difference is that the water absorbed the frequency that you sent to it. So this is very easy experiment anybody on the planet can do. It's 100% repeatable, and you can see with your own eyes the extraordinary capacity of water to absorb. This is what we realized, that water is a broadband absorber, receiver and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we realized that fact, our whole quest was to create the most positive, dominant frequency water there is. Because we realized, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, if we would expose any other water to that water which is in this dominant state, all the water would become it. And this is where elegance and simplicity of Analemma is. We created what we call the mother water, the water that exists in this state. It takes 1 full year for us to create the mother water. And what we do, I can show it. Just a second, please. Take it out of the box. So this is the Analemma. And this is the crystal vial. And we fill it with mother water. And when you take the Analemma, when you take this stick and start swirling, any H2O molecule, chaotic H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So in an effect, after just 30 seconds of swirling, you get a glass of mother water. And when you drink it, that's when all the benefits happen. We actually put mother water inside a crystal vial. This vial has twofold purpose. One, of course, to create the barrier between the mother water inside and the rest of the water. But more importantly, this crystal serves as a superconductor. It actually allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. That's why it's so simple and elegant. And results are very, very, very repeatable.
So this all sounds, like from the outside looking in, like if they had never been subjected to any of this information, that is way too woo-woo for me. It doesn't make any sense. But like I've been playing around with this and diving deeper into it, and it starts to make sense. And then you can't really deny the fact that it's obvious. So when you start, dissecting what it is that's actually changing. So like when people are hearing this, first off, going to that example of the rice, like I'm gonna have to try that for sure. But if it stands to reason, people, if we're primarily water, 99% from a cellular level, and we're just speaking negativity into our lives at all times, self-sabotage. These people are rotting and decaying in and of itself. And that can
exactly
be a positive affirmation. So that alone is super interesting. But then when you start to peel back what drinking structured water does on a cellular level, like what are we expected to notice? Like if somebody says, okay, I'm going all in on this, I'm going to drink nothing but structured water, what can they expect to experience short-term, mid-term, and long-term?
Thank you for this question, because we never wanted to stay in the woo-woo land. I completely understand that. But that's why we invested so much in independent, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, because this is the golden standard of studies. We wanted to prove, not anecdotally, I feel better. It's like what actually happens on the biological level with people. So the first study that we did, we were actually, since we realized that this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, we were thinking, okay, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately, scientifically measure? And it was our brainwaves. So what we did, we actually did a double-blind study with genetically identical twins. It's a golden standard study. You have two genetically identical individuals, and what works on another must work. One must work on the another. So what we did, we actually put QEEG equipment on their heads. We monitored their brainwave patterns. Doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. They were just given one glass of water. One was Analemma water, and the other one was regular water. So the twin that took a couple of sips of regular water, as you would expect, we saw zero change, literally no movement in brainwave patterns whatsoever. But interestingly, almost as soon, this is really fast, we're talking about minutes, as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of Analemma water, we saw almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant harmonizing effect on the brainwaves. And this was really one of the first powerful proofs that something biologically remarkable happens and happens very fast. There is this thing called delta coherence that happens in the brainwaves. People usually, when they meditate or they're using psilocybin, they have this delta coherence that start to happen within the brainwaves. We actually repeated the experiments 3 weeks later, and we gave the Analemma water now to the other twin. And we saw, again, exactly the same phenomenon, like you copy-pasted, because these guys were genetically identical, while now the first twin received regular water, and the result was 0. So you can't kind of ignore it when you see the data, and it kind of stares you in the eye. And this was really powerful effect, and, brainwaves and like your entire brain health gets influenced very fast just with drinking the water. This was the first study that we did. So to take one step back, in the beginning, we actually picked up the whole lab from a famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. And he actually developed this technology with very delicate technology which can capture biophotons. So every living system exudes these tiny, tiny particles of light called biophotons. The more biophotons a biological system exudes, more vitality it has. So very early, we actually had a large greenhouse in the Netherlands where we did all the measurements. And it's repeatable 100% of times. When you water the veggies, for instance, tomatoes, we took tomatoes and cucumbers because they have a large content of water. Tomatoes that were grown with Analemma water exude between 60 and 200% more light than the tomatoes that were grown with regular water. So this is actual vitality. Why am I saying this? Because we wanted to measure, and we repeated this so many times, so it works on every single vegetable and fruit. But we want to see how would that correlate to humans? What could we measure that would prove the similar effect on humans, because it's very hard to measure a biophoton emissions in people. We're kind of complex and big. These devices are very delicate and small. Then you can actually capture. And we decided to measure ATP, something that you're probably talking on your podcast a lot. Adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of cell, it's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes inside of our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Basically, every breath, every heartbeat, every cognitive function depends on ATP. So we decided to do double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured ATP levels in people. So we deployed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So this was the method that we deployed because we wanted to see what actually happens and very accurately measure any changes in ATP. So the participants in this study actually took a snapshot of ATP levels with them. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day for 2 months without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their exercise regime, their diets. Basically, everything else stayed the same. The only thing they've changed is that they drank Analemma water. And after 2 months, we did another snapshot to see what happened with the ATP levels. And what we saw was 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you calculate the placebo in, that's 1/3. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy of the body. And it has profound effects on basically every single system in the body. Probably you talked about ATP a lot on your podcast. So, in terms of everybody kind of connects ATP to athletic performance or recovery of less fatigue. But interestingly, what most people aren't aware, probably your listeners are, but like the biggest spender of ATP in our body is our brain. 25% of all of our energy goes just to feed the brain. For one neuron to send a neighboring cell an impulse, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion of ATP molecules. And we have billions and billions of neurons. So it's a huge spender. With this study, we proved that mitochondrial activity gets improved more than significantly. And scientists now agree that one of the key causes of cellular aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. This has really a lot of implications for health and well-being of humans. And interestingly, when your mitochondrial function increases, the ability of your body to turn fats and sugar, which is our primary fuel, into energy increases exponentially. And that in and of itself, if you don't touch anything else, has profound effects on our health and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, the laundry list would be never ending pretty much as to how all this would benefit everyday habits, routines, activities. That compounded over a lifetime is obviously going to lead to a better quality of life and better longevity. What does this look like in a use case scenario? Like when people, like for you, for instance, we'll just speak anecdotally with regard to you. What do you notice in how you feel and perform when you drink it versus when you don't?
Well, now I'm pretty used to drinking it because I'm drinking it for years now. But I'm a very energetic person. I just kind of...
you seem very energetic.
Yeah. But that's why I like to kind of... I always like to stick to science. But, we're receiving literally thousands and thousands of letters from people all over the planet. The kind of results they're having, wherever I would say... your body is being challenged, or it's we all have our own strengths and weaknesses, but this is where kind of when your energy of your body kind of scale moves, the body has more than enough energy now to treat or repair the things that are actually problematic. And this is where people start to see the movement. Most people, almost instantly, I would say 95% of people, which is really interesting. I'm also kind of inviting everyone, if of course you kind of acquire Analemma, the taste test. 95% of people will immediately notice the difference. There is one story that I always like to tell. I've been on Dr. Mindy Peltz's podcast. I love her. She's truly amazing person. Her sister is a very accomplished doctor as well. And she saw Mindy swirling, like you saw your person in your team. She saw Mindy swirling, like, what are you doing? What is this? Kind of, what are you doing now? And she explained to her sister what is happening. And she was like, this is crap. This is woo-woo. This is not happening. And then Mindy invited her, let's do a blind taste test. And 5 times in a row, her sister, super skeptical about it, just pointed to the one that was treated with Analemma. And she couldn't explain to her. That's why I'm saying we could connect this to the brainwave thing that I mentioned. As soon as you take a couple of sips, you feel it. So does that translate immediately to the taste buds? I'm not sure what's the functional aspect of it, but 95% of people know immediately the difference in taste.
What happens when you, like, if you have, like with you, for instance, if you're traveling, you don't have the wand with you, like, is it worth it to you to drink unstructured water, or is it like a definitely not kind of scenario?
Well, that's why it's kind of cool to have it. That's why we created it, so you can always kind of carry it. But if you are, let's say that the effects are compounding, it's not like when you stop using it, you're immediately going to start to feel kind of worse or anything. The key thing is, if this is your regular routine, then your body is going to show it to you, and you are going to feel it. And there is then a resistance. This is something that we actually proved on plants on a phenomenal phenomenal way. The resilience of plants on this is just off the charts. We actually created a study that is going to be now very soon published in Tier 1 scientific magazine, where we proved that when you water the plants with Analemma water, we actually created a short-term drought where we kind of created a very, very, very stressful situation for plants, and we had a control group, and then we allowed the plants to recover, and we did this. We use this latest fluorescence-based technology, which actually exists only in 2 places in Europe, where you can get a mountain of data on what happens on a molecular level within the plant, and the results were mind-boggling. It really, the level of resilience to stress the plant demonstrates if you water it with Analemma water is really extraordinary. And this is what we need now. That's why we also want to, and we're introducing this to the agriculture world, because we're having this extreme weather conditions, either floods or droughts, and then basically crops die. With this water, they resist, not only resist, they thrive under stress. And this is what we proved. That's why we are publishing the study, so everybody can see it and know it and can start using it.
Have there been any study, this is my bodybuilder mind kind of going off on a tangent here, but have there been any studies done on rodent models that compare, a control group that's not given it versus one that is from, birth, basically, to see if there's any change in growth or recovery? Like, I'm thinking, what can I do to make my body more anabolic and just grow in a more efficient, effective level? Have there been any animal studies like that done?
No, we haven't done it, but interestingly, we are actually preparing several studies. And thank you we can actually even collaborate there. You can give me some ideas, because, we can do only as much science as we can at the time. Mm-hmm. So we are planning a lot, hormonal, and we're actually even with Dr. Mindy Peltz, we were talking about, since she's very much into fasting, to create a study people that are going to fast with regular water and with Analemma water, because we're expecting extraordinary results if you're fasting with Coherent water and if you're not eating anything else. The results are going to be just phenomenal. But this is a very good, I love this, because if we do a mice study, they have a shorter lifespan, so we can actually follow them from the birth to its death and to see how it behaves. But interestingly, what we did in terms of longevity, we did an NAD study. Mm-hmm. So everybody is now last couple of years, talking about NAD. I mean, NAD is cellular fountain of youth. It's responsible not only for longer lifespan, it's responsible for longer health span. So it's, I would say, one of the most precious molecule in human bodies. And we did double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured NAD levels. To cut the long story short, again, we saw more than significant rise in NAD levels in people that drank Analemma water. And the implications of that, if you just look at it, NAD activates sirtuins, these enzymes that actually repair damaged DNA. So we're talking about enhancement of cellular repair all over the body. From the brain level, the NAD as a molecule, really, it fuels a neuronal activity and neurotransmitter synthesis. So it not only affects cognitive performance, it affects your mood. Metabolic and cardiovascular health is deeply affected by levels of NAD, because it improves mitochondrial function and it also improves insulin sensitivity. You're very much familiar with that. And what am I missing? Yeah, lowering inflammation and lowering oxidative stress. These are the two biggest drivers of all degenerative diseases that we have in the world. And another benefit, which is also huge, it actually interacts with genes which regulate circadian rhythm inside of our bodies. So it actually allows you to have deep, restful sleep. So NAD is a crucial molecule to have. And another thing with NAD is, for instance, when you're 40, you have 50% less NAD than when you were 20. So keeping those levels high is essential for overall health. That's why we went and we wanted to do a double-blind, placebo-controlled study just to prove what would happen if people would drink just Analemma water without changing anything else in the world with NAD levels. And we saw more than significant rise in NAD levels.
That's exciting. What does Analemma mean for those that do not know?
Analemma, it's interesting. Analemma is a symbol of the sun. If you take a photograph from the Earth, if you take a photograph of the sun for 365 days and you put it in one photo, you're going to get this infinity sign. Why we're calling it Analemma? We realize that water changes electromagnetically every single day due to position of the Earth towards the sun. That's why we called it Analemma.
I love it.
Now I'm going to share something which is really, really, really mind-blowing. And it can tell you, I would say, for me personally, this is the biggest benefit of this water. We're doing all the other because, ATP, it's like very clear. NAD, we did microbiome, we're going to talk about that as well. We did biological age. But this thing is actually what I believe the biggest benefit of drinking this water. So,
what's that?
Yeah, early on, we actually, I mentioned this biophoton research that we did. We actually took this tiny piece of life, like a seed from a plant. So it's really the simplest, we would say one of the simplest life forms. And we watered some with regular water, and we watered some with Analemma water, and we monitored biophoton emissions. We wanted to see what's going to happen. With seeds that were watered with regular water, we didn't see anything really spectacular happening. It was the same. But almost as soon as we started to water the seeds with Analemma water, we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It was like, what happened there? Like, it started to breathe light in and out, but in a very long way. And we couldn't figure out what was actually happening there. We had a whole team, just so you know, like 50 plus scientists working on the project over the years, and we couldn't figure out what was happening. So we connected to other scientists, and after a while, we realized that it started to follow the tides. So Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to the circadian rhythm of nature. It connected it electromagnetically to its larger, relevant electromagnetic environment. If it can do this to a seed, can you imagine what can do for a human being? It will not only connect you within yourself, which we proved through all of the studies and this double-blind brainwave study. It actually connects you to planet Earth. It actually connects you to life that is around you. So you're no longer separated. We are, as humans, like separated from each other, from nature, from everything. But drinking this water connects you in a very tangible way with your relevant environment. It makes you sensitive, intuitive. I don't know if you believe in those things, but the key thing, this thing showed that there is a connection or exchange of information with the environment.
Well, I do definitely believe we're all interconnected, and I would like to think that all of life is kind of like a singular organism, all working in harmony, and everything should be having a symbiotic relationship. I feel like that's oftentimes not the case in this polar environment that we find ourselves in now. But if we can do something as simple as drinking structured water, and we can get closer to that symbiotic relationship, I think we'd all come out ahead.
I love that you said that, because this is the truth. I love that you said that. And thank you for saying that, because I truly believe the same thing. We are part of the earth. And if we are one with it, we are being led in a different path. We are connected to one another. We are. So it's not a matter of are we or not we not. We are connected. It's just a matter, are we conscious of that or not? Are we moving with the impulse or are we not? For instance, when there is a great change, animals sense that and then move away. For instance, if there is a tsunami coming, this is actually recorded many times. You can see animals, they sense that there is a shift in the force, so to speak, and they move away from it. We people are not, because we are not connected to the impulses of the environment. Mm-hmm. And when you become connected, then you can sense, then you can feel, and you can follow those impulses. That's why I mentioned that I truly believe that this is like the greatest benefit of drinking this water. It's very visceral and very deep. And so it's not kind of, it's something I believe truly important, especially in this time and age where people are so disconnected from each other. The society is very polarized and people are trying to find the connection. And this is one of the ways where you can be connected to what's truly relevant for life and move with it.
Out of curiosity, I mean, there'd be no way to prove this scientifically that I'd be aware of, but what do you, I mean, I'm assuming this is how all of the water on Earth was at one point, I would assume. What do you think was the distractant from that structured state? Like, do you think it's a multitude of things, anything specific? Like, what was the catalyst for us going towards this, disarrayed, chaotic confusion as far as the water is concerned?
There are many factors, just like you mentioned, but I would like to mention one, which is really kind of pretty powerful one, and we're one of the first scientists that actually shed a light on it. EMFs have a very detrimental effect on water. When you take a glass of water and put it next to a Wi-Fi router, you're throwing it in chaos. This is kind of very, very, very visible. And we actually didn't want to stop there. We wanted to see and prove the effect. Again, we came back to brainwaves. We're the first scientists that did this experiment, or more than several years back now. We actually took people using the cell phone for 3 minutes, and we monitored their brainwaves. And you can see immediately, by using the cell phone, there is a really chaotic effect happening within the brainwave patterns. But you know what we did then? We gave regular water to some, and we gave Analemma water to some. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon. Those who took a couple of sips of regular water, we saw zero change. So this effect, this chaotic effect, lasted for at least an hour after people used the cell phone. But the people who drank a couple of sips of Analemma water, there was, again, almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant harmonizing effect. So the brain goes back to baseline. It goes back to green, so to speak, in coherence with itself. But we didn't stop there. We wanted to go a step further because we had this greenhouse and we did a lot of experiments with plants. We actually, this is one of the, let's say, latest experience that we did. It was also a bit back. We actually radiated the water close range with 4G and 5G. And then we watered the plants with it. So it was very saturated radiation. So it's not like the ones that we receive through the towers. We really kind of.
And this was towards the Analemma water. You saturated?
No. Regular water. We took rainwater, just regular rainwater, and we rated it close range. We watered the plants with it, and they all died extraordinarily fast. What we did then is, again, we rated it the same way. Then we took out the Analemma. We swirled through the same water. We watered the plants, and the plants, not only, they weren't normal, they thrived. So this is where we proved again that when you change the state of water, biological systems immediately respond to it. And if you're not doing it, and if you're applying the radiation on the water, you have the bad effect. And you know where it becomes, it was kind of troublesome because you have this really dense saturation of EMFs even on the Earth. But with Elon Musk and the rest of the guys, they're putting 5G in a low orbit. So it's there. And all of this radiation is actually passing through clouds. And that cloud is a condensed water.
Mm-hmm.
And that water falls on Earth. And we already proved the effect it will have. So, but of course, this is not such a heavy radiation. But I would say that long-term exposure to that will not be good for both humans, animals, and plants.
Yeah, that's I didn't think about that. I mean, if they're getting it from the cloud level and then everything falling down, that's impacting everything on life as we know it.
Everything on life, exactly that. That's why we kind of we're very careful, because we don't want to kind of poke the bear, the telecommunication industry. So I'm kind of not talking too much about it, but we want to kind of at least share the technology to people so they can at least help themselves.
Totally.
We did all kinds of things with EMFs. It's really fascinating. We actually this is one maybe not relevant study, but I'm just going to share it because it's super curious. We connected to a brick a manufacturer in Germany, and we gave them Analemma water to create bricks with. And interestingly, the brick that is created with Analemma water, for some reason, is 400 grams lighter than the brick that was created with regular water, which had exactly the same weight. So that's one, which we really can't kind of understand why, but obviously because of the structure of the water, probably something happens there. We didn't kind of want to invest too much in the studying of that because we wanted to study the effects on biological systems so everybody can get the benefit. But interestingly, when house was built with that brick, we realized that it doesn't allow EMFs to pass through as much.
Was one brick stronger than the other as well?
We didn't measure the strength. It was actually the way we saw it. It has exactly the same. We didn't break. We didn't go through the science of it. As I mentioned, we kind of just stopped it there. We focused on. We wanted to see whether it will stop the EMFs, and it actually did.
That is super interesting.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, the EMFs. I mean, I feel like they're starting to become more, centrally focused, like they're in the limelight, so to speak, and people are conscious of them. But it's like they're aware of them, but they're not really hedging against them. I mean, like the wireless headphones, or the Bluetooth, the cell phone. I mean, they're everywhere. Like the microwave.
I know. That's why I never use, knowing all of this, I never use Bluetooth. Even though everything is saturated, so I'm not I can't really escape it. But I use hands-free at whatever I can, so I'm not using anything wireless. As you can see, I'm using wired headphones, and when you and I'm protected by Analemma water. So when you drink it, you do have that protection. But still, you don't want to saturate your body with these kind of waves. And in my house, we always kill the Wi-Fi whenever we sleep, so you kind of allow your body to really have a deep restful sleep. But with drinking the water, we mentioned NAD levels, ATP, circadian rhythm. You're going to sleep much better when you drink Analemma water than if you're not.
I'm a big advocate, and this is kind of the approach I take with nutrition. It's like, look, the food you eat is something that we all do every single day. That compounded over a lifetime is going to make or break you. And I feel like the same is true, obviously, with the water that we consume and are comprised of. So, for me, getting on this and, totally buying into it, hook, line, and sinker, wouldn't be a big lift. I mean, I'm very meticulous on what I eat. I'm very meticulous on everything that I do that is compounded daily, because that literally is what presents your trajectory in life.
I agree.
Something this can make a meaningful difference, then it's time well spent for sure.
I agree 100%, especially when you look at it, 99% of all of our molecules are water. This is the most fundamental level of our existence. So drinking the kind of water you drink really has a powerful effect on how you're going to feel and be in the world. And especially given all of the science, we're not stopping. We are nowhere near stopping. And not only that, you know what's the mission statement of our company? We want to make all of the water on this planet coherent again, because we truly believe that at one time it definitely was. We actually developed this eco-friendly technology that can be installed in the wells of the biggest rivers. Because then the microbiome, we didn't talk about microbiome, this is also very interesting. The microbiome of the soil, the life down the stream is going to change. And this water is extraordinarily life affirming. And then this water is going to fill the oceans. And it's not going to take too long, just a couple of years. Then we're going to have coherent oceans. And then we're going to have coherent planet. So, and this is actually what we definitely want to do. And our whole goal, that's why we're investing so much in the science, so that all the water, all the municipal water, wouldn't it be cool that you open your faucet and you get coherent water there, not this chemically deeply disturbed water. This is something that I mentioned, that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, people always go to kind of filter the water, and that's totally cool. You should filter your water. But even if you take the toxin out, physical toxin out, the frequency of that toxin, because water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, is deeply ingrained in water, even if you take physical substance out. That's why Analemma is so precious, because it literally, not only it kind of cleans the slate, it puts the water in its optimum state. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I didn't also mention is there are a couple of scientists on the planet that have created some sort of structured water. And we tested basically almost every single one out there. And they do make a change. So the water actually enters into this particular state. There are various states, but the change actually is there. But the key thing is, I just lost my train of thought. Maybe we're going to edit that.
But the key thing with the Analemma water relative to other structured waters?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So the key thing when you compare all of these others is that we measured almost every single device out there, and the coherence is there between minute and a half and a day and a half. So after a day and a half, even the most resilient ones, the water breaks and goes back to chaos. And we actually tested just once treated water for now 8 consecutive years, and never for a moment it went out of the state of coherence. So the resilience of water is extraordinary. But that's why I'm saying it's not like vortexing what other people do or magnets or some short. We are actually, it takes 1 full year for us to create the mother water. And it involves precious metals. It involves lightning, if you can imagine. There is a 5-stage process that water has to pass through. And once it passes the 5th stage, it never goes back to chaos. And we actually tried to put it in a chaotic state, if you imagine. We actually took the mother water and we radiated it, because we realized that when you radiate water, it goes to chaos tremendously. It resists. It does not break.
So once the water is structured, it's structured. Like there's no deviation.
It's structured. There is no deviation. Again, I hypothesize, realistically, it's forever. But, again, we're sticking to hardcore science. We did it for 8 consecutive years now. And never it lost its state of coherence, whatever we did to it. It stays there. Mm-hmm.
If you take the wand and structure water from your faucet in a glass, that water is then structured for hypothetically 8 years as well?
Yes. This is exactly what we did. So that's the same. We structured it once, and then every single year, after 1 year, we do another test to see whether it lost its state of coherence, and it never did up until now.
So you piqued my interest on how this mother water is formed. Lightning, like how are you harnessing all this? Like what does that process look like without giving any
Well,
trades?
yeah, we can't really. This is the thing. We were thinking, should we patent the whole process? But when you patent the whole process, then you have to actually have to share it. And unfortunately, me coming from pharmaceutical industry, I know that big pharma kind of now much often than any other, they go for patent infringement. They just steal it and then like sue us. And after 10 years, we're going to pay something to you. But we didn't even want to go there. We want to offer this to the world in a powerful way, and it will be very, very hard for anybody to copy this process. That's why we're not talking too much about it. I'm just sharing a couple of kind of things here and there. And also, I can mention one thing, that when the water goes into this process, we need to keep it under the earth, under the ground. Yeah, but that's the final, let's say, maturation process. And then when it comes out, then it's so super resilient that you can't even, like, we really kind of, whatever kind of even little things that usually put water into deep chaos, Analemma water just resists it and stays in the state. And even, when we rated it at very close range, it broke. But as soon as we stopped, the water molecules remembered its highest state, and they came back together, and they formed that particular structure. So it was super, super, super interesting.
I don't ever have, pre-made questions before podcasts. I just kind of roll with the conversation. But since my friend has one of these ones, he sent me a few questions. I'd love to just kind of rapid fire through them real quick.
Please.
All right. So he asked, how does this affect hydration for athletes? How can athletes leverage this? So we kind of talked about the ATP enhancement, all of that good stuff. But from a sheer hydration standpoint, I'm assuming if you're drinking exclusively structured water, your supplemental needs for additional sodium, potassium, magnesium may be different because your body is in a more hydrated state inherently, right?
Most definitely. So that is given. But for athletes, I would just like to mention one other interesting thing. We did actually, since this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon and we are 99% water, we were thinking what would happen if people would take bath in Analemma water? Because water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, and we are 99% water. If we would submerge ourselves into water for 20 minutes or half an hour, what would happen? So we actually connected to Dr. Greg Lane and my dear friend David Perez in San Diego, and since they have various equipment to measure before and after, and they have the whole system there, so we actually measured cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, but most importantly, heart rate variability. And we took all of the vitals before. Then people went. It was 100 people study. Then they submerged themselves and just kind of hang out in the bathtub for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we did another test. Every single person in the study experienced improvement in every single marker. The minimum, if you can imagine, the minimum rise in heart rate variability that we saw was 30%. Minimum.
Wow.
That is wild. And it was like, seriously? It was really, especially, where we had the one lady that had really, really, really big problems with it. She was in a really bad spot. Her heart rate literally was it was really bad. She experienced 150% increase.
That's crazy, man. Just from hanging out in the tub for 20
Hanging out in the tub, and this woman is now she's not coming back. Yeah, she's kind of, she bought the whole house system. We have a whole house system, so you don't have to swirl or anything. You just install it in the piping system of your house. Wherever you open your faucet, you have Analemma water. So she's taking Analemma baths every single day.
Wow, I would too. For that 150% increase, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be 100% increase for you because she was in a bad spot. But that's why I mentioned the minimum rise we saw was 30% in a 100 person study. So it was not a small sample. It's like 1 people, 5 people, or 10. It was 100.
That's crazy. I'm gonna kind of bounce around to come to some of these questions here. So he asked, if I structure some water and then combine it with unstructured, does it structure it?
It does.
It does. Okay.
But we always say kind of it's best that you use the wand because then you're 100% it's going to do it. But yes, water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, so it is going to do the trick. But this is why I say to people with the whole house Analemma, you're not going to fill the tub and then use the wand for half an hour. Kind of swirling until all of the water is kind of coherent. I mean, you can, but I always suggest people if you because the whole house system, it's a bit pricier, but even if you just have the wand, if you keep it under the flowing water, it's going to take some while for the bathtub to fill. But if you're keeping it under, then you're 100% sure that you have exactly the same effect like when you're having a whole house system. So even with the wand, you can have exactly the same benefit.
And if you're if you have the structured water, then you're like passing that through a coffee machine or something like that, there's no ill effect there?
No. We actually even tested it, if you can imagine, with the RO. So reverse osmosis really it really kicks out, it kills the water, just so you know. It really, RO systems kill the water. So then we tested it and with all kinds of ways where it would have been. If you create a bit of a distance, just like a meter between RO system and Analemma water, no problem. Analemma brings it back to life.
So if you're reverse osmosing Analemma water, that kills it as well? That does not?
No, does not kill it. This is what I'm saying. It just needs a bit of, we realize that if you have an RO system and immediately you put Analemma, it kind of needs a bit of space for the water to rest. At least that's, again, our explanation of it, because we tested it in all kinds of situations. And if you put at least 1 meter, you can put even half, but we always say, just to be sure, if you put Analemma, whole house Analemma after the RO, just 1 meter, it works like a charm.
Gotcha. And then he also asked, ideal time for stirring. Is there like a standard there? Like if there's a time per liter, like 10 seconds per 10 ounces of water, is there a general recommendation?
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's say 20 to 25 seconds per cup. So if you have larger quantities, then you can adjust increase. But we're actually we came out, but we sold everything out. Now another quantity is coming out, what we call an inlay. It's Analemma that you just submerge into. You just take a pitcher of water and you put it at the bottom and you just fill the water in and leave it for a couple of minutes, and so you don't need to swirl anymore.
So what is the act of the swirling in general? I guess that just expedites the structure.
Exactly that. There is no kind of magic. There are people asking, should I move in one direction? It doesn't really matter. When you're swirling, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water, it mimics its exact structure. So if you're really swirling, you're actually expediting the process. You can actually even leave the wand, the glass part in the glass, and just leave it for a minute. It will do the same job.
Gotcha. Is there I'm pretty hard on stuff. Like I break lots of things. Is there like a bulletproof version of that wand?
That's why I'm saying we did inlay, which is, you just keep it in the pitcher. And if you don't break the pitcher, then it's going to do the job. But, this is a jewel. And if you're going for wand, you need to treat it like a jewel. Otherwise, it's very thin glass. If it falls, it will break. So no questions there. That's why we're actually going to very soon be coming out with the under the sink solution as well. So you just install it under the sink, and then all the water that comes out of your faucet will be coherent. So we're going to actually be coming out very soon. In late November, we're coming out with a drinking bottle. So whenever you go, if you go to your office, if you go to the gym, if you go to the park, wherever you go, you can actually have the bottle which has the Analemma inside. So you can just refill the water and you can have it. You can drink coherent water everywhere.
That's 100% what I'm going to be getting. That's going to be available in November, you said?
Yes. We're launching it for Black Friday.
Is it in a plastic bottle or like a steel bottle?
It's a steel bottle.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm
Yeah.
assuming, like, I've had several guests on talking about microplastics in the water. So I
Yeah.
try to avoid any plastic water bottles, especially ones that have been exposed to sunlight.
Agreed. If it's in a colder weather, it's not a problem. But with heat, then there's a leakage there. So I agree with you. I don't use any kind of that as well.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm excited, man. This has got me amped. I'm excited to see where this research goes. Obvious that you put in the work from a research standpoint. Are you getting much pushback? Like, is the scientific community?
Not really. This is interesting. I mean, in the beginning, yes, we did, but now there is this whole water. There is a water conference every single day where all the water scientists from all over the planet are coming together. We know all of them, and they all of them knows us. So only the people that are not actually water scientists might have an opinion on it, but when they see the data, then they can't really say anything, and they actually become the biggest ambassadors of this because they look at the data, they see how we did it, they see that all the studies were independent, and then they get excited, and then they even want to do their own research because we can take this research in various places. You mentioned a really cool rodent study that we definitely want to be doing, but as I mentioned, we can only do as much studies at the time. Mm-hmm. So every single a year we have new studies coming out, new things that we're doing. I haven't actually mentioned one. I haven't mentioned two things which are really, really, really important. I just want to mention that.
Yeah,
we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled microbiome study. Microbiome is hugely important part of human health. I know that, being so health conscious, you probably talk to your audience about this a lot. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as single species, but nothing could be kind of further from the truth. We are living in symbiosis with trillions of microorganisms, and this equilibrium and harmony with all of these microorganisms and us is hugely, hugely, hugely important. If you can imagine, there are up to 300 times more microbial genes than human genes in human body.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty wild.
It is totally wild. I'm geeking out on the microbiome. It's super kind of cool. Not to go in because, I can talk about this for another hour, but we did a double-blind placebo-controlled study where we measured what is called the dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So dysbiosis index measures the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the different bacterial phyla and species and their weighing factor. So again, we took a snapshot of people's microbiomes. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in their world. Everything stayed the same. Their diets, exercise regime, whatever is out there, everything stayed exactly the same. And then after a while, we took another snapshot to see whether something changed. And we saw 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index over the placebo. We saw sharp decline in bad bacteria. So this is something that tells you that this water brings equilibrium. If everything in our body has its place. So bad bacteria, they should be there, but overgrowth of bad bacteria is what creates a problem. And this water actually creates, again, equilibrium. So positive bacteria go up, negative bacteria go down, but they both have an important part to play in our overall health and wellness.
I'm excited, man. This has got me amped up. You said there's one other thing that's got you excited. Was there another?
Yeah. The other that I wanted also to mention the effects on the environment. What we actually did it's the microbiome study, but the microbiome of soil, if you can imagine. We actually took a completely destroyed, barren piece of soil in the Netherlands. Netherlands is the land of agriculture. 98% of all of their land, agricultural land, is actually being used. So you can imagine it's the agriculture country, and they're using glyphosate and all of these toxins in a ludicrous amount, and this kills the soil. Literally, it just kills it. And we actually picked really the one dead part. They couldn't revive however much chemicals they threw on it. It was dead. And we wanted that because we wanted to see what's going to happen when we throw an Analemma water on it. So one part of it, we water with regular water. And one part we watered with Analemma water, and we monitored on what happens on a molecular level within the soil. The part that was watered with regular water, it was still dead. We literally saw zero change. It was barren. You couldn't grow anything on it. But this is where it gets interesting. The part that was watered with Analemma water, within only 2 months, we started seeing the explosion of changes in the microbiome of the soil. So we started seeing this colonies of bacteria starting to show up out of nowhere because they weren't there. We just watered the soil and we started to see this explosion. And now it gets interesting. These bacteria started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. The whole nitrogen cycle improved. So to cut the long story short, because it's really very fascinating study, this soil became fertile within 2 months. And as I mentioned, is there a more elegant way to treat the excess CO2 in atmosphere than just water the fields with it, and the microbiome of the soil changes, and those little bacteria, this is what's interesting, trees and plants, they breathe in CO2 and they breathe out oxygen. And we breathe out CO2 and we breathe in oxygen. We are part of the one ecosystem. And this water brings equilibrium back. It's so life enhancing that it gives whatever is necessary to whatever light form. So I just wanted to mention that it was really, 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 really super cool.
What do you think your projection is for what year will the world's water supply be structured again? Like, is there a?
I don't know. We already kind of put in our kind of plan, like we're going to do this in 2 years, but it's not going to happen that fast. Yeah. But it doesn't matter how long it takes. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? It doesn't really matter. We are committed to the work. This is our mission. We are going to make this happen. That's why we're investing so much in science. That's why we want to kind of bring this to the governmental level, because when governments get involved, then things can move much faster. Then we can bring coherent water to, all the municipal sources. So everyone, you can just open your faucet. And this is also interesting. When the water passes through the rectangular system, like we usually have, piping system, it completely kills the water. Water needs to move in a natural way. But Analemma water is so resistant, so stable, so strong in its structure, that even though if you put it through that particular system, it will still reach your faucet in the same particular state. That's why, we know we can bring it. And we can supply cities with it. And as I mentioned already, we want to bring this technology to the wells of the biggest rivers. Then, everything down the stream would change and all life would change. We really firmly believe that when all the water enters into coherent state on the planet, we are part of the planet. It would be very hard, not for us as humans, which are also water, as we already talked about, so we don't also enter into this state of resonance. Mm-hmm. And then we're entering into state of oneness with each other, within ourselves, and with nature as a whole. It's very hard to be violent towards nature and towards your fellow human if you are in the state of coherence, because you perceive the other human as a part of you. So you're never going to punch yourself in the head. Mm-hmm. And if you understand that the other person is just a different version of yourself, living under different circumstances, and that therefore we're not similar, but we are. When you go to the essential level, to the fundamental level, we are all one, and we are deeply, deeply connected.
Totally agree. I mean, as they say, their energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just is. And life, like the lifeblood of that energy, is water. So if that is all coherent, then we're all going to be better off. There's no downside.
100%. That's why we're so committed to it, and we're committed to making all the bodies of water on this planet coherent. And I know that we're going to do it at some day, and that is going to be a beautiful day for every living thing on the planet.
By all means, keep fighting the fight. It's a worthwhile one for sure. Where do people go to dive deeper into your work, look at the research studies, get the wand, and just get behind the message?
People can go to coherent-water.com. That's the best way. I'm not going to make people spell Analemma water because it's actually analemma-water.com. But for the purposes of podcasts and for people to kind of easily spell, it's coherent-water.com. I invite people, if you want to follow our science, we're continuously doing new research. You can jump on a newsletter, and you are going to get information on everything that we're doing, because we're going in various directions. As I mentioned, agriculture is now a big thing now. We actually haven't touched upon that a lot, but we are really changing how food is going to be grown on the planet, the quality of the food, the nutrient density of the food, the resilience, the energy factor of those fruits and veggies is extraordinary. When you eat that fruit and veggies, all that energy ends up in your cells. And of course, if you're drinking it, then it's all good from kind of any perspective. But we definitely are changing the whole agriculture game. The soil, the problem of the soil is tremendous, and also human health and animal health as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm very enthusiastic about this. I'm excited. I'm going to definitely get a wand myself, and I'll be consuming this primarily going forward for sure.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this. I love doing this. I love sharing this because it's so freaking amazing.
Yeah, no, and the passion shows through, and I feel like that speaks for itself. So by all means, keep doing what you're passionate about and keep making a meaningful difference in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir. If you ever need anything from me, just let me know.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Until next time, man. Take care.
Take care.